Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about the innermost self and the coherence between the densities and what it all means and how does it all work. So in your innermost self, where you are observing this whole experience from, you are subdimensional, which means that feeling me or I am comes from outside space and time, where this self is formless and it is the same in you and me and everybody. That I am is what we call God. We might call it also Brahman. We might call it Atman, Tao, etc. So the self emanates this experience of life through layers of organizational densities. So first, it's all the dream, it's all the imagination of the self. And even though everything is one in this appearance, there are parts. The division between the parts and the parts are both imagined. So the unity of all parts that we experience as spiritual bliss, unity, or if we are journeying towards that, we experience love and connectivity. And also the splitting, dividing, the division. Everything that is phenomenal is created in the self, in the imagination of the self, and it is an appearance. When I say it is the appearance, it is also the self appearing as everything. So there's nothing other but the self. The only difference between the appearances in the self, which is this life experience, is they're all transformable. They're all non-permanent. And they exist in different cycles of time, and time is also a construct. The self, you, is indivisible, transcendent, formless, and it's not subject of birth or death. It just is. So now let's talk about coherence between the layers that make up this reality. So reality is like a cake. It has the crust, and it has the banana, and then it has the filling, then it has the topping, then it has the sprinkles, then it has the strawberries on top. So when we are human, we are the strawberries on top. And there are all these layers that are building up to this surface. So we, as this divine consciousness, have been playing on the surface, and what is beyond the sprinkle and the strawberry we call other dimensions, or we call that metaphysical. It is not seen or experienced by our primary senses, but with our consciousness we can experience these other layers, the crust, the fill, the banana, because we as consciousness are really free to roam any part of this expressed imagination. We just need to learn how to get out from the surface layer, and then we can take a look at anything. So basically, we want to allow the coherence between all the layers of the cake. If there is connectivity all the way from the I am throughout the cake, then this cake is one hell of a cake. There is no problem, there is no ailment, there is no suffering. Even this form is not deteriorating or aging, because there is equal distribution of the infinite energy of the dreamer that is infusing every layer of the dream. So the dream keeps being radiant. There is a chi flow that is unobstructed throughout the layers. And when we are in this human experience, we have a spiritual practice or a sadhana like yoga or different practices, different modalities that help the harmonization of densities. These practices help all the layers of the cake to become interconnected like they are in their original divine blueprint. Excuse me. If there is a blockage, a stagnation, a distortion in each of the architectures, well, then the construct, the dream construct, cannot function like it was designed. And we experience what we call distortion in the field, where instead of coherence and interconnectivity, we have something not connecting. And this is the cause of ailments and mental ailments, and really any kind of anxiety or paranoia that we might experience with our being. So that means there is, on an energetic level, something is messed up. Now I'm going to talk also about the power of the I am to actually re-establish harmony throughout the layers. And the limitation that I am might have to establish harmony with its omnipotence. So, your innermost self that is subdimensional, you are complete, formless God self, and you emanate this universe like this because you're without time. So everything that is generated as these time cycles, it took you no time to create that. Now when you come into the experience of cycles, there's always something moving through the screen. So these sequences of events seem like, okay, there's like time passing and now we have to wait for the next cycle for this opportunity or that opportunity. And it is so in the experience of beings. But then also the power of your self beyond space and time is to potentially override all the settings, all the densities, and all the distortions that might have happened within the layers, and to have them in harmony, like just restored, just like that. So miracle healings, instant healings, and absolute reharmonization of all the layers is available for every being that is the projection of the I Am. Now here's where the I Am does not interfere. If my being is experiencing one layer of the cake and I have created a separate identity, an identity that is I am this human being, but I don't believe in God or something like this, that is incoherence, that is a distorted presumption of the I am experiencing a lower density and getting into that mood of these appearances and constructing some kind of an identity based on what it sees. This is still the I am consciousness experiencing a form, an identity, maybe personality, something like that. So God does not interfere with itself, because it is God who is tripping balls and saying that there is no God. And so the self cannot re-educate itself. It simply needs to allow itself to experience whatever it wants to experience. So we may then see that throughout the densities we have different stations of identity, which is all just like I am, and then I go here and then I am this, and I maybe don't remember me in the previous layer, in the previous density, or outside of space and time, and then I might create a subset that is I am that guy somewhere. And so it may even go to this complete ignorance of the original self that created me, and I'm just going about some density and I'm tripping balls. And there is no God that can stop me because I am, but I'm just not remembering. So at any given point, all of these stations of identity can, through their own free choosing, reconnect with their father-mother, just like, so there's no father-mother, there's you. Me and my father are one. So it's just, I projected myself here from another place. And if I want to recon with that previous identity, or the first identity, I am free, because I am God, to ask for that. And if I want to drop all of my play, all of my perhaps distortion or incoherent assumptions from which I am creating my realities, then I'm free to do so. And whenever I surrender whatever I've been playing that is based on some incoherent assumption, because I'm not respecting the follow-up of dimensional layers that I create from beyond space-time, then I'm getting lost in some kind of distorted dream that is not the real reality, but is my sub-aspect tripping balls. So if I get tired of tripping balls within a incoherent reality that I'm creating, I might surrender that whole reality to my original God self, and then that whole reality is going to get reharmonized and healed. And as a collective of beings, we let's say we experience the fall, like fallen angels. This is like this mythology that explains quite a lot of what we can sort of create from incoherency. So we might still be able to create a lot of realities because we are the I am that is continuing its dream, only that every subsequent creation is going to get more and more distorted, more and more incoherent, because we're not hitting that whole tree of life. We are not having coherence and connectivity throughout all of dimensions. So we are creating also realities they're not charged from the source. So they're sort of phantomic. They're not eternal. So eternal is something that is always charged, and that might assume a crystallized form, and then this form, the consciousness is immortal and transcendent, but the form can be created to be also ascended or immortal. But mortal forms and worlds that are perishable, they are illusory, and they might have been designed as an experiment to just go and experience the simulation of not self, the possibility of a distortion, because in error there is a possibility to evolve further than, so let's say I have a blueprint that is pretty stable, and it's always gonna give me more of the same. When it replicates itself, there will be more and more and more of the same. Every next instance of replication is gonna be the same. If I introduce the possibility of error, a possibility of free will, then I get a very rich flora, because now these organisms are able to create something from their own perspective. So this is the experiment of the fall. It's actually just the opportunity to choose to create within the mathematics of God that are in a way determined. Their possibilities for play, but it is all set within some sort of boundaries. And then if we can go into a realm where we can reproject that same architecture of possibilities, but we can add variations to that, that is something that is both a blessing and a curse, but of course our original self does not care that much about potential of blessing or a curse, because it is transcendent of these experiences in the world of forms. So the blessings or the curse or distortion or symmetry, they can only be a preference of a being in the world. You, in the subdimensional space, you don't care, man. Like, you're really transcendent of all of these universes that you're dreaming. So, and then you can actually tune into them, and you can like hear the askings of your individualized forms, and you can intervene. So this is where we as forms are informing the decision making of the universe. We as beings are then, even like fallen beings or beings that are going back home or falling deeper into distortion, we are all precious to our God self, because our God self in a subdimensional space does not have a reference point to make decisions or choices. So God self wants us to play and experience and create these choices, so it can know more about every possibility of creation that is even destruction. Because destruction is only creating space or returning the forms back to self. So it is important what we want personally, or as individual souls, or as individual carriers of that I am. And it is important for us as beings to recognize the inherent power that lies within us, because we carry the God seed, and in that seed we are in the subdimensional space, and we are that. So each being carries that infinite potential within. So it is the communion of the I am and all of the densities of this creation that keeps forever pouring the infinite potential into expansion of this creation. I think that's it for today. I might have a lot more to say about this, so subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the flip side.